9:49. Now imagine that your child is in hospital and in unbearable pain, but the doctor tells you that she is just hypersensitive. I've been speaking to Jo Mckee. Her daughter Ella Copley is 17 and has been in Leeds General Infirmary since March. Now, Ella has had ME for 7 years. In spring, she was taken to hospital with an infection, and Joanne told me what happened.
She started projectile vomiting. She was barely conscious by this point. I was begging anybody to come and see her, and it was 5 o'clock in the morning before someone came in.
And at that point, what did you think was wrong and what did the doctors think was wrong? Were they two different things?
No, I'd said I thought she had sepsis numerous times to numerous people. We hadn't seen any doctors up until that point, so I hadn't got a doctor's opinion.
Yeah.
We hadn't even seen nurses as such. So we'd been there, 8 hours and not seen anybody, barring the surgical registrar at 1:30 in the morning. He'd said he could tell that she was very unwell, but because he was covering the whole hospital, he would pass it on. But to me, she had sepsis, and I did alert staff to that.
And what happened? What transpired in the end then? Is that what she had?
Yeah, she had. It ended up being severe sepsis. We got taken up to a ward that we'd stayed on last year, who knew her quite well. They recognised that that wasn't her usual self. They called for the usual doctor when you get admitted, but it was still a couple of hours later. And then all of a sudden, like within an hour, we were getting told ICU doctors were coming down, that she was extremely poorly. They were doing fluid resuscitation, like what you see in the films where they're holding bags of fluids and pumping it into them. And it was so surreal because, and all I kept saying was, I have told people all night, I am so angry. I have told everybody. She just looked so unwell.
Now, sepsis, I'm sure you all know, is a life-threatening disease where every minute is important. And despite the delays, Ella did pull through. But now, 18 weeks later, she is still in hospital. You can imagine what that's like if you've spent any kind of period in hospital. You're just desperate to get out. She is in intense pain. But Joanne doesn't believe the doctors have taken it anywhere near seriously enough. She told me that Ella's pain was unbearable.
Ella had come to terms with her situation quite a few years ago. Her situation now, the only thing she ever says is, what have I done to deserve this? Why are they being cruel? This should be illegal. And I wouldn't say she's definitely not feeling sorry for herself. She just can't understand why no one will listen. She's come to terms with intestinal failure. She's got friends who are poorlier than her, who manage at home.
Yeah.
She knows she's probably never going to eat or drink again. She can cope with that. She cannot cope with severe pain. She's just kept saying, I cannot live in this much pain. And pain is the absolute number one problem for Ella, not her conditions or not managing them. It's the fact that people don't believe her. We've seen over 200 doctors over 7 years, and probably only 3 have ever believed her.
So they won't give her, you're saying that they won't give her more painkillers or more pain treatment because they don't believe that she's in that much pain?
Correct.
Okay, that's crazy.
To swap, obviously what she's on is not effective, so could we look at a plan to swap? I asked for different types of painkillers. They were on the table for a while, and if I say the pain team would come and say, well, we'll review it in 2 days, and then 2 days, we'll review it in 2 days. And Ella was all this time suffering, crying incessantly on the ward, with so many witnesses that have come forward to speak her truth. And it was, Ella is hypersensitive. CAMS will be the answer to Ella's problem. And she's had enough. She has had enough, and she then started saying, I cannot live like this. If you allow me to suffer in so much pain, I will take my own life. And as soon as she said those words, all medicines were off the table. You can't have this because this can cause suicide. You can't have this. So it was like this, it felt like a get out of jail free card. And then she needed one-to-one supervision by the hospital, which made her 100 times worse because it'd be an agency worker, and it was a total stranger, usually a very well-built man who would just sit at the end of the bed and watch her all night. And that was her mental health support. It just seems to be every single day for the past 6 weeks, there is a battle, and it's battles that don't need to be battles. If someone just listened to what Ella was saying, there are lots of scientific documents to say these conditions cause severe pain. It's not in Ella's head. And I do fear for her life, because there's so many stories where they are now inquests. Just, her pain is real. Her pain is severe. She's not asking for much.
Jo also says that that Ella is not the only one. She's spoken to parents who say that their children died in hospital because their condition wasn't taken seriously.
There needs to be training. There needs to be plans in place. Ella is complex, but there are so many other people that are complex that need help. They need believing. We are going to lose so many more people if they are not sent to the right specialists, or not every doctor is going to know everything. But when you don't know it, please listen to people that do have an idea. People are going to die, and people are suffering like my daughter. These people are supposed to be saving lives, not ruining them. She has PTSD from this admission. She wakes up with nightmares. She cries all the time. She is scared stiff of doctors. She has emotional meltdowns when she sees them come on the ward, because she just sees them as people that are going to harm her. That's not right. It's not right at all. Just listen to these people that are complex, because no one knows their bodies better than they do.
That is Jo Mckee telling me about her 17-year-old daughter, Ella. You can read more of the details in the Times today. There's a big story on it in there. And Matt Chorley will be speaking to the CEO of Action for ME, who's been advocating for Ella in his midday update. Dr Phil Wood, who's Chief Medical Officer and Deputy Chief Executive at Leeds Teaching Hospitals NHS Trust, said, "We recognise this is a really difficult time for Ella and her family. We're sorry to hear that they feel that we are not meeting Ella's needs. Our clinical teams are doing everything they can to support them and try to get Ella better as quickly as possible. We appreciate the support offered by the Action for ME charity, and we'll be meeting with them to discuss their insight and knowledge in further detail."